Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Bethany Doherty, and I am a program coordinator for OneOp. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's session on Feeding Minds, Fueling Futures through the Child and Adult Care Food Program. In case you are joining us for the first time, I would like to give a brief tour of our webinar platform so you can find your way around. Hopefully, you are currently able to view the slides we are sharing. If you are unable to see them or have any other difficulties, please email us at contact@oneop.org for tech support. As some of you have already done, we look forward to having you join us in the chat pod for conversation and questions. Several people have shared the location they're joining us from today. Please continue to do that if you'd like. To embed the chat pod so you don't miss any links or conversation, simply place your cursor over the shared slides. You will then see a toolbar pop up across the bottom of your screen. From there, click the chat bubble icon. When typing questions or comments, please be sure to select everyone from the response options drop-down menu so everyone can view them in the chat pod. Please note that the slides and resources are available for download on the event page for today's session. We will be covering continuing education information at the end of the webinar, so please stay tuned at the end if you're interested in continuing education credits or a certificate of attendance. Closed captioning is available for this webinar. You can turn on the subtitles via the Zoom toolbar. If you need to step away from today's webinar at any time, please know that a recording will be available for review within 2 business days on the event page. Today's webinar is part of OneOp's Nutrition and Food Security series. An estimated 24% of active duty service members and their families are food insecure. Food security is a complex issue, and thus OneOp is offering a series of live and on-demand webinars addressing a variety of food security topics, such as today's webinar. And we will put the link to this series in the chat so that you can view some of the other topics that we've covered in this series. Thank you for joining us as we continue our partnership with the Defense Department and the U.S. Department of Agriculture to expand the readiness, knowledge, and networks of the professionals supporting our military service members and their families. Today, I am very pleased to introduce our speakers, Jill Ladd, Krishna Hughes, and Danny Nolasco. Jill Ladd joined USDA in September 2022 as the CACFP nutritionist within the Community Meals Policy Division at the National Office. Prior to joining USDA, Jill served for over a decade in Child Nutrition Program Administration at the Kansas State Department of Education. She first discovered her passion for child nutrition while volunteering at a summer food service site in high school. Jill is a registered dietitian, and she earned her Bachelor of Science in Dietetics from Kansas State University and completed her dietetic internship at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Jill also holds a Master of Public Health from Creighton University School of Medicine. Krishna Hughes joined USDA in October 2022 as a program analyst within the Community Meals Policy Division, CACFP branch at the National Office. Prior to joining USDA, Krishna spent 3 years as a CACFP program specialist at the DC State Agency. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Marketing and Management from the University of South Carolina, and she holds a Master of Public Health from Liberty University. Her background includes a wide range of professional work experience in brand management and college athletics that led her to pursue her passion and career in child nutrition and wellness. And Danny Nolasco joined Child and Youth Services at Fort Bliss in October 2009 as the first CYS nutritionist for the installation. This is where Danny was first exposed to CACFP and the Summer Food Service Program. He started his career at Fort Bliss overseeing 5 centers, and this has now grown to a total of 10 centers. Danny earned his Bachelor of Science from New Mexico State University and completed his dietetic internship at Be Well Solutions with an emphasis in corporate wellness and disease prevention. Outside of his work at Fort Bliss, Danny enjoys working with youth athletes, helping them improve their performance through nutrition. And I will now turn it over to Jill to start the webinar.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I just need to disclose that the presenters have no relevant financial or non-financial relationships to disclose relating to the contents of this activity. The views expressed in this presentation are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Defense Department nor the U.S. government. Commercial support was not received for this activity. So today we are going to focus on a number of learning objectives. Those are going to be to describe the different components of the Child and Adult Care Food Program. We're going to summarize the benefits of participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program for children, providers, and parents. We're going to reflect on how Child and Youth Services operates the Child and Adult Care Food Program through the Department of Defense on Army garrisons. And finally, we're going to identify 3 resources available for use by child care operators to support service of healthy meals and to provide age-appropriate nutrition education to children. So first, we want to find out who is joining us today and get to know a little bit more about our audience and find out what experience with the CACFP you might have. So we're going to use the poll feature to get to know who's in the audience today. Our first question is, what is your familiarity with CACFP? So what does CACFP stand for? That may be where you're at today, or maybe you've heard of the CACFP but have no direct experience. Some of you may have less than 1 year of experience with CACFP. Others may have 1 to 5 years of experience. We may have some people joining us today with 5 to 10 years of experience, and we may be lucky enough to have people with over 10 years of experience with CACFP. So that poll should be up for you now, and you can go ahead and select what option fits you best. And then we're going to give you a couple more seconds to fill that out, and I'll share with you all who's in the room with us today. Okay, it looks like we have our results up. So for the majority, so 41% of you have heard of the CACFP but have no direct experience. And then 34% of you aren't sure what CACFP stands for. So I'm excited that we will get to share with you a little bit more about the Child and Adult Care Food Program today. And then less than 10% of you had experience in the CACFP at the different levels. So our next question, whoops, went one too far there. Our next question is, how are you connected with the CACFP? So maybe you work at or with a child development center or other program that participates in CACFP. Possibly you have a child or dependent who attends a program participating in CACFP. Maybe you work on a military installation where CACFP is offered, such as the Child Development Program. Or maybe you've previously learned about CACFP, but are not currently connected to it. And finally, maybe you do not know about CACFP, which I think we know that several of you are in that boat from our previous poll. So we'll give you a few more seconds to go ahead and answer this poll here on the screen. Okay, it looks like our results are coming up. Not surprisingly, 49% of you indicated that you do not know about CACFP. 37% of you have previously learned about CACFP, but are not currently connected to it. And then 12% of you work at or with a child development center or other program that participates in the CACFP. So excited to have you all with us today. And finally, in the chat pod, if you want to go ahead and tell us, what are you hoping to take away from this webinar today? We're excited to hear what you guys are wanting to learn about, and we will be taking a look at those responses here. So you can go ahead and put those responses in the chat box. So a general understanding of the CACFP, understanding some of those terms, Some of you are interested to learn more about the meal pattern, just some general info. And so I'm excited that we will get to a lot of those topics today, and we will go ahead and get started here. So Krishna and I are both here representing the U.S. Department of Agriculture, also known as USDA. The USDA is a large agency which provides leadership on food, agriculture, natural resources, rural development, nutrition, and related issues based on public policy, the best available science, and effective management. USDA is made up of 29 agencies and offices, one of which is Food and Nutrition Service. Food and Nutrition Service, also known as F&S, administers 16 nutrition assistance programs, including WIC, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, more commonly known as SNAP, and school meals. One of our goals with these programs is to leverage them to ensure that all participating children, families, and low-income individuals have opportunities for a better future through access to safe, healthy, and nutritious food, all while building a more resilient food system. Today, we are going to focus on one of the 7 child nutrition programs, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, also known as the CACFP. So what is the CACFP? The CACFP is a federally funded program that helps pay for the cost of serving healthy meals and snacks to participants in qualifying programs. The CACFP plays a vital role in improving the quality of care for participants by providing access to nutritious foods. CACFP participation provides funding to supplement the cost of meals and snacks, offers guidance in menu planning and recipe ideas, and provides resources and training to help programs serve healthy meals and snacks. There are numerous benefits to serving CACFP meals and snacks. Meal standards, or meal pattern requirements, are based on the dietary guidelines for Americans. Participating in the CACFP enhances the quality of meals served, increases nutrition security, helps combat diet-related diseases, promotes lifelong healthy eating habits, and is a key indicator of quality childcare. The study of nutrition and activity in childcare settings, also known as SNACS 1, was the first nationally representative comprehensive assessment of the CACFP. Data were collected in program year 2016 to 2017 from CACFP providers and participating children. Children's dietary intakes on a childcare day and a non-childcare day were collected through meal observations while in childcare, and a parent-completed food diary when outside of childcare. Data were collected from 1,669 children in early care programs, excluding family daycare homes, and 577 children in before and after care programs. The study included programs from a nationally representative sample from 20 states. One of the key findings of the study is the dietary intake of 3 to 5-year-olds in early care settings were more nutritious on a single childcare day than a single day spent outside of care. The Healthy Eating Index, also known as HEI, is a scoring system that assesses how well a person's diet aligns with the dietary guidelines for Americans. The total HEI score indicates the overall quality of a person's diet, and scores range from 0 to 100, with 100 indicating that the diet is in line with the dietary guidelines for Americans. The closer a person's diet aligns with the dietary guidelines, the higher their HEI score. In the SNACS 1 study, HEI scores were significantly higher on a day children attended childcare with a score of 65 compared to a day they did not attend childcare with a 61 score. The findings from this study are an important baseline, as the data was collected before the updated meal pattern requirements went into effect in October of 2017. This is important as a SNACS 2 study is currently underway, and we are interested to see if the needle has moved on intake for certain factors such as whole grains, since during SNACS 1, there was not a whole grain rich requirement in CACFP, but under SNACS 2, CACFP providers are required to serve at least one whole grain rich item per day. Another area that may see improvement is for solid fats, since the 2017 final rule that updated the CACFP meal patterns disallowed deep fat frying on site, and grain-based desserts are no longer creditable in the CACFP. Now I'm going to turn it over to Krishna, who will share with us about how the CACFP operates.
Thank you, Jill. Let's discuss the different types of CACFP institutions and facilities. As previously mentioned, CACFP is a federally funded child nutrition program that is administered by states through a state agency, most often the Department of Education or Health. It provides aid through child and adult daycare centers, daycare homes, emergency shelters, and after-school programs to serve nutritious meals and snacks to program participants. CACFP serves infants, children, and eligible adults. The program benefit is the meal, which is generally served to eligible participants. There is no cash benefit for households. The reimbursement goes to the meal provider operating the program and is intended to offset the cost of serving nutritious meals for participants in care. There are three major players outside of the federal government that have a role in CACFP: state agencies, sponsoring organizations or institutions, and facilities. State agencies are responsible for all administrative and financial requirements of the program and provide monitoring, training, and technical assistance to all sponsors. The state agency is the go-to contact for sponsors and independent centers not operating under a sponsor. The operational level under state agencies are institutions, which includes something that is unique to CACFP called a sponsoring organization. Sponsoring organizations may be responsible for a number of childcare facilities, or they may operate as independent childcare centers that serve as both sponsor and provider. Our last key player are childcare facilities. Childcare facilities maintain responsibility for serving meals and providing enrichment activities for participating children. It's where children can eat in a safe, supervised environment. Sites are also responsible for submitting accurate and meal counts, maintaining food safety practices, and providing enrichment activities for participating children. It is important to note that daycare home providers must operate under a sponsoring organization. Today's presentation will focus specifically on childcare centers, daycare homes, outside school hours care centers, and at-risk after-school care centers and programs. The next couple slides will discuss the operational level of the CACFP and highlight the key differences between sponsoring organizations and independent centers. Sponsoring organizations may have one or more childcare facilities and must accept financial and administrative responsibility for each facility operating CACFP. Sponsoring organizations must also apply directly with the state agency and are responsible for monitoring facilities, conducting and providing trainings, claims for reimbursement, and payments to facilities. Independent centers are single location facilities who enter into agreements directly with their administering state agency to assume administrative and financial responsibility for CACFP operations. These centers must be able to demonstrate that they are financially viable, administratively capable, and accountable. Highlighted in green are the different types of facilities that may operate the CACFP. Again, for this presentation, we will only discuss the facilities that are operated by Army garrisons. So what are childcare centers? Childcare centers provide childcare services primarily for those preschool age and younger. For a participant to be eligible to receive CACFP benefits from a childcare center, They must be either age 12 or under, or 15 and under if they are a child of a migrant worker or be disabled. They include daycare centers, settlement houses, neighborhood centers, Head Start centers, and organizations providing daycare services for children with disabilities. They can also be located as part of university and post-secondary education institutions. Centers have the ability to provide up to 2 meals and 1 snack, or 1 meal and 2 snacks to each child per day. Meals are reimbursed at rates based on individual child eligibility. They are able to operate in any area and can operate year-round. Child care centers may operate as an independent center or under a sponsoring organization. Many of the DoD child development programs participate in CACFP unless documented circumstances approved by the DoD component prevent enrollment. A daycare home is an organized, non-residential childcare program for children, generally 12 years of age or younger, operated in a private home and licensed or approved to provide care. To participate in CACFP, daycare homes must enter into an agreement with a sponsoring organization. In order to participate in CACFP, daycare homes must sign an agreement with a sponsoring organization. Next, we'll talk about outside school hours care centers, also known as OSHCCs. The main purpose of an outside school hours care center is to care for and supervise children. Center activities must be planned, supervised, regularly scheduled, and be distinct from any extracurricular programs organized primarily for scholastic, cultural, or athletic purposes. An example would be a Boys and Girls Club that offers before and after school care for children or child care for children on school day outs. An outside school hours care center can be located in any area and may provide up to 2 meals and 1 snack per child per day. While no federal licensing is required, they must meet state or local health and safety standards. They are intended to provide meals and care before and after school or on weekends and holidays, though they cannot be weekend-only programs. They can only serve lunches to enrolled children during periods of school vacation, including weekends and holidays, and to children attending schools which do not offer a lunch program. Outside school hour care centers provide organized non-residential child care services to children 12 years of age and under, children 15 years of age and under of migrant workers, and persons with disabilities of any age during hours outside of school. Just like child care centers, meals are reimbursed at rates based on individual child eligibility. Like child care centers, outside school hours care centers may operate as an independent center or under a sponsoring organization. Next are at-risk after-school care centers. Unlike the other programs we have discussed so far, at-risk after-school programs do not rely on individual child eligibility, but rather facilities must be located in an attendance area where at least 50% of the children are eligible for free and reduced price meals based upon school data. If the center is located in an eligible neighborhood or area, then all children receive free meals regardless of family income. Some programs are sponsored by schools, local government agencies, camps, or even nonprofit organizations. They tend to be located at schools, community centers, and libraries. At-risk after-school care centers may have the option to operate independently or under a sponsoring organization like child care and outside school hours care centers. CACFP at-risk must provide educational or enrichment activities in an organized, structured, and supervised environment. Examples include, but are not limited to, arts and crafts, homework assistance, life skills, or organized fitness activities. With at-risk, there is not a requirement that children receiving meals participate in the scheduled activities, but the activity must be available and open to all children. This program must be primarily organized to provide care for children up to age 18, after school, or on the weekends, holidays, or school vacations during the regular school year. Facilities operating CACFP at risk can serve a maximum of 1 snack and 1 meal per child per day. At risk can only serve a snack and/or supper on school days, but can choose to offer a breakfast or lunch in lieu of supper on weekends, holidays, or during school vacations throughout the regular school year. At-risk after-school programs cannot operate over summer vacations unless a school operates on a year-round basis. However, FNS has a program called the Summer Food Service Program, which we will be happy to have come back and talk about another time. In the next few slides, we will discuss the reimbursement and eligibility requirements of each program type we discussed today. Now let's talk about the meal service. Again, child care centers, daycare homes, and outside school hours care centers are eligible to claim and receive reimbursement for 2 meals and 1 snack, or 1 meal and 2 snacks per child per day. While at-risk after-school care centers are eligible to claim and receive reimbursement for 1 meal and 1 snack per child per day. Reimbursement rates for child nutrition programs are updated annually in July. These rates can be found on the CACFP website and are noted on this slide. These are the amounts that a program operator would get reimbursed for each eligible meal or snack served. Meals served to children in centers and OSHCCs are reimbursed based on a child's eligibility for free or reduced price meals, which is determined annually by household income or categorical information like SNAP or TANF, whereas all meals are reimbursed at the free rate for programs operating the at-risk after-school program, at-risk after-school meals component of CACFP. One caveat to add here is that only certain for-profit childcare centers are eligible to participate in the program. Reimbursement for daycare homes is based on a 2-tiered system that targets higher rates for daycare homes in low-income areas. Daycare homes participating in CACFP are classified as Tier 1 homes, either by location of the home in an eligible area or by the provider's income. After a home has been classified as Tier 1, all CACFP meals served to enrolled children are reimbursed at Tier 1 rates, regardless of the income of the enrolled child's household. However, if the Tier 1 classification is based on area eligibility, the provider must still submit an income eligibility statement in order to receive reimbursement for meals served to their own children. A Tier 2 daycare home is one that does not meet the criteria as a Tier 1 provider. That is, it is not located in an eligible area, nor is the provider's household income eligible. Tier 2 daycare homes, those that do not qualify to receive the higher Tier 1 rates, may still receive Tier 1 rates for those children enrolled in their care who are individually determined to be eligible for Tier 1 reimbursement. This is what is referred to as mixed Tier 2 homes. What is not shown here are the monthly administrative reimbursement rates for sponsoring organizations of daycare homes. Sponsoring organizations receive reimbursement based on the number of homes they oversee per month. As previously mentioned, to be eligible to participate in the at-risk after-school meals component of CACFP, a center must be located in an eligible area. This means that the facility is located in the attendance area of a public school, an elementary, middle, or high school, where at least 50% of the students are eligible for free or reduced price meals under the National School Lunch Program, or NSLP. This is referred to as area eligibility. State agencies have current area eligibility data for all public schools to help determine if a facility is area eligible. Daycare homes have two options to establish Tier 1 area eligibility: school and census data, whereas at-risk facilities must only use school data. Area eligibility determinations made using either school or census data is valid for 5 years. One second. Thank you. This chart provides an overview of which CACFP programs require meal benefit income eligibility forms, otherwise known as free or reduced price meal applications. Additionally, you can see which programs are area eligible and which data source is acceptable or required. Now I will pass it back to Jill to discuss CACFP meal patterns.
Thanks, Krishna. The CACFP nutrition standards, also referred to as CACFP meal patterns, are written in a way that allows program operators to plan menus that reflect the populations they serve and incorporate local foods. To access the meal pattern requirements, use the QR code or URL found on the slide. The amount of food that must be offered varies based on the meal or snack, as well as the particular age group being served. All child nutrition program meal patterns follow a food-based menu planning approach. This approach requires specific amounts of foods be served daily in accordance with the meal pattern requirements. The CACFP meal pattern includes 5 components, including fruits, vegetables, milk, meats, meat alternates, and grains. How individual foods contribute to the meal pattern requirements is referred to as crediting. The CACFP infant meal pattern is different than the meal pattern for children 1 and older. The CACFP infant meal pattern reflects how babies grow and develop and when they are typically ready to eat solid foods. There are 2 infant age groups under the infant meal pattern. They are birth through 5 months and 6 through 11 months. Each meal and snack under the infant meal pattern is made up of meal components, such as breast milk or formula, and vegetables and fruits. Vegetables and fruits are considered one meal component in the infant meal pattern. The infant meal pattern lists minimum serving sizes of breakfast or of breast milk, infant formula, and solid foods as a range of numbers rather than one specific number. So for example, for fruits and vegetables, the serving size for infants 6 through 11 months is 0 to 2 tablespoons. This is because infants may not be developmentally ready for solid foods or all of the components exactly at 6 months, and infants who have just started eating solid foods may not eat much. A baby that has not yet started solid foods would receive a serving size of 0 tablespoons. A baby that has just started eating food may be served 1 tablespoon. A baby that has been introduced to the food multiple times would receive the full 2 tablespoons. In all of these instances, the meals would be reimbursable. Infants who are just beginning to eat solid foods may not eat all of the required meal components at meals and snacks. The baby does not have to eat the entire amount served for the meal to be reimbursed. In some cases, there are several foods you may offer to meet the meal component. These are indicated by the use of the word "or" after each component in the table. For example, under the grains or meat alternates component, you may offer 0 to ½ ounce equivalents of infant cereal, or 0 to 4 tablespoons of meat, fish, poultry, whole eggs, cooked dry beans or peas, or 0 to 2 ounces of cheese, or 0 to 4 ounces of cottage cheese, or 0 to 4 ounces of yogurt, or a combination of the above. The meal pattern for children and adults is also broken into different age groups and consists of 5 different meal components. The meal pattern here on the screen is for lunch and supper meals, but there are different meal pattern requirements for breakfast and snacks as well. So let's play a game to learn about some of the specific meal pattern requirements for children and adults in the CACFP. As we've learned, many of you are unfamiliar with the CACFP, but some of you may be familiar with the meal pattern requirements. So let's take a first look. So in this breakfast meal, we have a toaster pastry, chocolate skim milk, and blueberries. So in the chat, I would love for you to tell me whether or not you think, yes, this meal is reimbursable, no, this meal is not reimbursable, or maybe this meal is reimbursable in the CACFP field, in the CACFP. So feel free to type your answer in the chat, or you can just shout it out to yourself at home. We won't be able to hear you. So I'm seeing a lot of no's, a couple of maybes. And those of you that answered no are correct. In the CACFP, grain-based desserts are not creditable. Grain-based desserts include items such as toaster pastries, cereal bars, donuts, sweet rolls, and coffee cake, to name a few. Therefore, this breakfast would not be creditable. Now, some of you I saw answered maybe, and I wonder if that was because of the chocolate milk. So with chocolate milk, that is another point of consideration. In the CACFP, flavored milk is only creditable when served to participants 6 and older. Therefore, if the chocolate milk was served to children 5 and under in a child care center, the meal would not be reimbursable. Moving forward for our examples, we're going to assume that the milk being served is unflavored skim or unflavored low fat, also known as 1% milk, and the meal or snack is being served to children over 2 years old. Okay, here's another breakfast example. In this breakfast meal, we have a breakfast of banana, cereal, and unflavored skim milk. Is this creditable in the CACFP? I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat. So the answer is actually maybe. So while this breakfast does contain all of the creditable meal components of a reimbursable meal or a reimbursable breakfast, you have your grains component with the cereal, your fruit with the banana, and then the milk. The reason that it's maybe is that cereal in the CACFP must meet sugar limits in order to be creditable. Currently, breakfast cereals must contain no more than 6 grams of total sugars per dry ounce. However, USDA recently published a final rule that updated some of the CACFP nutrition standards that updates total sugar limits to added sugars limits for breakfast cereal. So effective October 1st of 2025, breakfast cereals must contain no more than 6 grams of added sugars per dry ounce. Okay, here's another breakfast scenario for us. So in this breakfast of fruit, yogurt, and unflavored skim milk, would this be creditable in the CACFP? Okay, I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some maybes, and the maybes have it. So this is similar to the cereal question. As you can recall from the last slide, I did mention that the 3 required components of a reimbursable breakfast are grains, fruit and vegetable, and milk. And while grains are not featured here on the slide, CACFP operators can substitute meats and meat alternates, such as yogurt, for the entire grains component up to 3 times per week. So then why was this a maybe? It has to do with the yogurt. So the reason this meal is a maybe is because just like breakfast cereal, yogurt must meet a product-based sugar limit in order to be creditable. Until October 1st of 2025, yogurt must contain no more than 23 grams of total sugars per 6 ounces. Effective October 1st of 2025, yogurt must contain no more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces. Now, with state agency approval, CACFP operators may choose to implement the added sugars limits for breakfast cereals and yogurt early. Okay, next scenario. I think this is going to be our last breakfast one. So is this breakfast of scrambled eggs, sweet potato fries, and unflavored skim milk creditable in the CACFP? Okay, yes, I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat box, and the answer is yes. So as we discussed on the last example, CACFP operators can substitute meats and meat alternates, such as eggs, for the entire grains component up to 3 times per week. The eggs meet the meats meat alternate component, the sweet potato fries meet the fruits and vegetables component, and the milk meets the milk requirement. Please note that only at breakfast are fruits and vegetables a combined component in the CACFP. So let's take a look at some snack scenarios. In this snack, consisting of a granola bar and sliced apples, is this creditable in the CACFP? Okay, I am seeing answers all over the place, but I'm seeing more no's come in now, and the no's have it. So, as we discussed earlier, in the CACFP, grain-based desserts are not creditable. Grain-based desserts include items such as granola bars, cookies, brownies, and fruit turnovers. Therefore, this breakfast would not be creditable in the CACFP. Here's our next snack example. Is this snack consisting of graham crackers and peaches creditable in the CACFP? Yes, no, maybe. Again, I'm seeing a variety of answers here, but those of you that answered yes, you are correct. A snack in the CACFP must contain 2 different meal components from the fruits, vegetables, grains, meat alternates, and milk components. So this snack contains fruit and a grain, so therefore it meets that requirement. And it is important to note that while graham crackers are creditable in the CACFP, cookies would be considered a grain-based dessert and would not be creditable. Something we have not discussed yet is the whole grain rich requirement in the CACFP. In the CACFP, program operators must serve at least 1 whole grain rich serving of grains across all eating occasions per day. So if this program operator was only serving an afternoon snack and no other meals or snacks, then these graham crackers would have to be whole grain rich in order for the meal to be creditable. Let's take a look at another snack example. So is this snack consisting of blueberries and watermelon creditable in the CACFP? Yes, no, or maybe. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's in the chat box, and you guys are correct. A snack in the CACFP must contain 2 different meal components from the fruits, vegetables, grains, meat alternates, and milk components. This snack only contains fruit. Therefore, this snack would not be reimbursable. Okay, our final snack scenario here on the screen is this snack consisting of blueberries and bell peppers creditable in the CACFP? You guys are awesome. Yes, this is a reimbursable snack. The snack contains a fruit, the blueberries, and a vegetable, bell peppers, and therefore this snack would be creditable. Great job. So let's move on to some lunch and supper examples. If this lunch or supper consisting of grapes, a taco that contains a tortilla, ground beef, lettuce and tomato, and unflavored 1% milk, is this creditable in the CACFP? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses, and you all are correct. Lunches and suppers have the same requirements in the CACFP and must contain all 5 meal components. So fruits, vegetables, grains, meats and meat alternates, as well as fluid milk. This meal contains grapes from the fruit component, a tortilla from the grains component, ground beef from the meat alternates component, lettuce and tomato from the vegetables component, and we are assuming that there is enough of the lettuce and tomato to meet the minimum meal pattern requirements for this taco. And then the meal is rounded off with a glass of fluid milk. Okay, here's another example. Is this lunch or supper consisting of pepper strips, hummus made from chickpeas, pita bread, and unflavored 1% milk creditable in the CACFP? Okay, I'm seeing the majority of no's, and that is correct. So on the last slide, we learned that lunches and suppers must contain all 5 meal components. However, there is a flexibility that a vegetable can be offered to meet the entire fruit requirement. So when two vegetables are served at lunch or supper, two different kinds of vegetables must be served. You may be saying to yourself, well, there are two vegetables in this meal, the pepper strips and the hummus made from chickpeas. And you would be right. However, a program operator can choose whether to serve the hummus made from chickpeas as a meat alternate or as a vegetable, but the hummus cannot credit as both in the same meal. So in order for this meal to be reimbursable, you would either need to add a fruit, you could add a different vegetable, or you could serve a different meat alternate with it. Okay, last scenario for us to look at today. Is this lunch or supper consisting of pancakes with syrup, scrambled eggs, strawberries, roasted sweet potato, and unflavored 1% milk creditable in the CACFP? You guys are awesome. Yes, you are correct. All 5 components are represented in the minimum quantities required. So this meal contains strawberries from the fruit component, pancakes from the grains component, scrambled eggs from the meat alternates component, roasted sweet potatoes from the vegetables component, and fluid milk. Some of you may have paused and wondered whether pancakes with syrup are considered a grain-based dessert. Adding a sweet topping such as syrup to pancakes or waffles does not make them grain-based desserts, and they can be credited towards the grain component. However, FNS, or Food and Nutrition Service, strongly encourages centers and daycare homes to explore healthy alternatives for toppings such as fruit or yogurt. And now we're going to pause for some questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Bethany to facilitate any questions that maybe have come in.
Thanks, Jill and Krishna, for giving us this background on CACFP. There are a couple of questions that have come in. The first question is the CACFP tied to the Thrifty Food Plan?
Great, I can take that one. So the Thrifty Food Plan is not related to the CACFP. As Krishna mentioned, the meal pattern or the meal reimbursements for CACFP are updated annually, and that is based on the Consumer Price Index. It's going to be on the Consumer Price Index for food away from home for all facilities except for daycare homes, which is based on the Consumer Price Index for food at home.
Great. And the next question is, if a CACFP center decides to outsource meals via a licensed catering company, can the center be reimbursed as long as the meal patterns follow the requirements?
Okay, that's a great question. Maybe. So there are going to be certain requirements that you're going to have to follow, and those could vary by state. But what first comes to mind is that making sure that procurement procedures are followed when procuring those meals. So definitely something to reach out to your state agency about to get further clarification.
And finally, for centers that are operating outside of school hours, do they have to be a nonprofit organization?
Krishna, do you want to take this one, or maybe we could come back to this question at one of our further Q&As?
We can come back to it.
Yeah, can we talk about that at the end of the presentation, Bethany?
Yeah, we sure can. We will have additional time at the end for questions. So if you have additional questions, please put them in the chat pod. But for now, I'll hand it over to Danny to talk about the CACFP program at Fort Bliss.
Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to speak a little bit about how the military utilizes the CACFP for our child and youth services. I'm here at Fort Bliss. We are the 5th largest installation out of 58 here in the United States. We have 9 facilities that do participate in CACFP, 5 child development centers. We have 2 school-age centers and 2 youth activity centers. We do sponsor daycare homes, so we call those family child care. And we have about 16 of those running actively right now. We also have an additional 18 installations outside of the United States. And interestingly, even though they are not eligible to participate in CACFP, they are required to follow USDA guidelines for CACFP. Even though they are outside of the United States, we do utilize the guidelines that CACFP um, provides for those installations outside of the United States. So first, we're going to talk about our child development centers. The age group for these centers are birth through preschool, so birth through about 4 or 5 years old. We do participate in CACFP and at risk after school for these facilities. The meal patterns that we serve are the infant meal patterns, the 1 to 2 year old meal patterns, and the 3 to 5 meal patterns. For our infants, we do provide formula for the infants, the iron fortified formula, or the parents that have the option to deny the formula that we provide and they can provide their own. And we also do promote breastfeeding. So we do offer a private area for parents if they choose to have a private area for breastfeeding, or we allow them to do it in the classrooms if they prefer to do it in the classrooms. But that's one way we do provide support for breastfeeding mothers. For the at-risk after school at our child development centers, the children are walked over from the school because we do have a school across the street from our child development centers. So they are walked over in the morning and after school to the elementary school and back. And then the services that are provided by the CDCs are full day care. We open at 5:30 a.m. and we close at 6 p.m. We offer part day care, and then we also offer hourly care, just depending on how many hours the parents would need care for their children. In our CDCs, we also do family style dining. Next, we have our school age centers. These are open from 5:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. as well. These are primarily for first grade through fifth grade students, ages 6 to 11 years old. We do participate in the CACFP and at risk for these facilities. For the facilities, they do participate in cafeteria style dining as opposed to family style dining like they do in the child development centers. For the school age centers, we do offer services of before and after school care. We provide full and part day care for early release and school breaks. So when they have fall breaks, winter breaks, spring breaks, summer breaks, we offer care as well. While they are in care, we do offer homework assistance. We have a technology lab where they can practice um, coding, any other type of computer activities. We have our fine arts department, which provides like theater, arts, crafts for the children. And then we also have free and structured play areas available. We have basketball courts, volleyball courts, we have soccer fields for the children to have an opportunity to play and be active as well. For our school age centers, the children are dropped off in the morning to the facility. And again, we do walk them over to the school that's across the street. And then some kids are bused over as well, or bused over to the surrounding schools by our installation. And that's one way that we kind of support the parents with transporting children. And next, we have our youth centers. So our youth centers are for our 12 to 18-year-old children or youth here here in the installation. They are from 6th grade through 12th grade. At this facility, we do participate in the at-risk program. And for the services here, we do offer pickup for the children after school. However, the kids can check in and out independently at these facilities. So since they are older children, they can kind of come and go as they please. We do offer full and part day camps as well for early release and school breaks, just like before with our fall break, winter break, summer breaks. We offer those services as well. And similar to the school age centers, we do offer a technology lab. We have our fine arts department. This one is a little bit different where we have an activity and lounge area, and then we have sports and activities. So this one has just a few more. We have rock climbing walls. We have the soccer fields. We have skate parks. just a lot of activities just to kind of bring the kids in to our facility. And then finally, the last type of care that we provide is family childcare, which is home daycares. So these services are for birth through 12 years. We do participate in CACSP, so we are the sponsor for the daycare homes. We do participate in the infant meal patterns, the 1 to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 13-year-old meal patterns. They do provide services in the facility, so it's not just a daycare. They are required to also provide like learning activities for the children while they are in care. And FCC homes do provide also full day care, part day care, and hourly care. And the homes in our FCC program can only be homes that are on the installation, and these homes are licensed by the military as opposed by the states. So we'll just talk a little bit about the process of how we enroll the children into our programs. So we have a parent central registration site, which is where military and civilian employees can enroll their children. So in order to participate in the installation programs, you have to be military affiliated, or a civilian employee with the military. We use our SIMS tracking system, which is a child and youth management system. This is where we capture all the registration information for the children that are being enrolled into our programs. Specifically for CACFP, we capture the income eligibility. We produce the enrollment forms for the facility that they're going to be participating in. And here we also hand out and disperse WIC information for the parents. So as they are registering, in our waiting area, we do have the WIC Building for the Future flyers in the lobby area. And as we enroll them, we also hand them out and explain to them the programs for WIC, which they could possibly qualify for if they so choose. Next, we have our menus and meal patterns. So our menus are produced as a collaboration effort. So we have our G9 headquarters, which is the CYS headquarters for all the Army. And there, with the headquarters, we have a nutrition tiger team, which is a select group of nutritionists or dietitians around the Army working at different CYS installations. We come together with Kansas State University, and we develop our menus, and our recipes for the CACFP, which we use in our facilities. All the facilities, or all the locations CYS at all installations, do follow these menus. We have a recipe book, a CACFP recipe book that we produce, and I believe we do have that available on the resource section of the webpage for this training, for this webinar. And KSU does help us with our recipe analysis and any type of recipe conversion. Say that there's a recipe that we do like, however, it doesn't meet our standards. It might have too much sugar, too much sodium, too much fat. And we work with KSU, and they help us work on altering that menu so it does meet the guidelines. Okay, and this is our Army Healthy Menu Initiative, how we use to produce healthy menus and meals for the children. For our menus, our meal production records are completed by our cooks. So once our cooks do have the menus, what they do is they do the meal production records based off of how many kids we are planning will be participating for that day. And we kind of use a running tracking system just to know how much we're producing, so that we're producing at least the minimum amount for the children that we are going to be having in care for that day. In the infant classrooms, the infant teachers there, they are responsible for producing the meal production records for the infants based off of how much formula they're taking, how much cereal they're taking, how much fruit or vegetables or meat alternate that they will be taking. So our meal production records are either filled out by our cooks or the infant care staff. And then I would also like to add that when we do have children with special diets due to medical or religious reasons, We do our best to accommodate those special diets within our capabilities. If for some reason we are unable to accommodate those diets and a special exemption is made, then we go ahead and allow that special exemption. However, we do our best to accommodate all special diets. So our meal services are broken up into family style dining and cafeteria style dining. So like I mentioned earlier, our CDCs and FCCs do participate in our family style dining. So the process for this is we start off by cleaning and sanitizing all of our tables that we're going to be having our meal on and our food contact services. We do set the tables. We do allow the children to help us set those tables as long as the children have washed their hands and they have been trained to handle those dishes and set the tables. We always check for food allergies. As you can see in the picture provided, we do sing a song. It's called our Hands Up song. The children raise their hands, and we are able to identify children with food allergies or food restrictions with little bracelets, kind of like little concert bracelets. So they're little red bracelets, and then we do list their allergy and their substitution on there, and that notifies the staff that a special substitution is needed for that child, and they can make sure to look for that substitution. All food and milk is going to be placed on the table at the same time, and then the children are going to go ahead and start serving themselves as they pass the serving dish to each other. During this time, the staff takes the opportunity to engage with the children in pleasant conversation. It allows the children to work on their motor skills, their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills as they're serving themselves. They learn communication as they are passing the bowls, the serving bowls to each other, learning their manners, their please and thank yous. And there's an opportunity for us to reinforce those I'm sorry, to reinforce that. And then at the end of the meal, that's when we're going to go ahead and clean up, and that's going to be the completion of that meal service. So that's our family style dining. With our cafeteria style dining, that's going to be conducted in our school age and youth centers. Very similar process. Our tables are going to be cleaned and sanitized. However, in this process, the kids are going to line up and the kids are going to serve themselves. So we have the food laid out for them in a cafeteria style. As they go through the line, we do have the serving size, the required serving size utensils in each food item. The children are going to serve themselves on their trays. As they go through the line, there's going to be a staff member at the end of the line to ensure that all required meal components are taken for those children. If for some reason they are missing one of those meal requirements, we notify them that they have to go and take one of those that missing meal component. Our staff members are also required to participate and engage with the children at this time as well. So just like with family style dining, we have the staff go in and engage with the children, talk with them, converse with them, and just make sure that they're in there engaging with the children. The military also has a universal pre-K program, which we don't run in our facilities, but at some of the schools and installations throughout the U.S. I believe they have about 80 locations right now that do participate in the universal pre-K program. The universal pre-K program does offer full day care for the children. While they are in care, they do utilize the CACFP to provide lunch, and they do also do family style dining as well, and they do it in their classrooms as well. So very similar to how we do in our CDCs. The children that do participate in this universal pre-K are required to fill out the free and reduced applications. And if a child falls under the paid category, they are going to be required to pay the amount for the meal. So participating in the CACFP at these universal pre-Ks is a mandatory requirement. So if they are going to participate in the universal pre-K, they are going to be it's going to be mandatory that they do fill out this free and reduced application and determine what eligibility they fall under. So with our record keeping, the way we do this is all of our records are going to be compiled at the center level, and they're going to be delivered to the CYS nutritionist. So as the teachers and the cooks and the rest of the staff are going through the program, okay, at the end of the month, each center is going to have a end of month spreadsheet, which is where we track all of our meals that are going to be served on the 1535, which is the meal count and attendance form. Okay. And then our cooks and administrative staff are going to track all of the costs for the food program. So at the end of the month, we're going to have all of our meal count forms, all of our kitchen labor reports, our purchase invoices, our meal production forms, and our allergy reports. So each one of these facilities are going to just track it throughout the month, making sure that they're consolidating all of their meal counts for all of the classrooms. We do have some centers that have multiple classrooms, so everything gets consolidated at the end of the month onto this spreadsheet. And then this spreadsheet at the end of the month is going to be sent over to the nutritionist, where we're going to consolidate everything. We're going to verify everything. We're going to check all of the paperwork. Okay. And then we're going to put that all together into one big claim that will be submitted through the Texas Unified Nutrition Program System, the TXUMPS. And that's where we're going to submit our claims. So as we submit our claims, okay, we're going to take the data from each center. End of the month worksheet is going to be input into that claim worksheet. Okay. Our SIMS category report, so our SIMS is our tracking system. This is what we're going to use to run our free, reduced, and paid participation for each center. So as the children are enrolled into our facilities at our Parent Central, they're going to fill out this free and reduced application, and then we're going to plug in what category they fall under. So at the end of the month, what we do is through our SIMS program, we filter out the location, and then we run the number of check-ins for that report. Once we have that, we're going to go ahead and enter everything again into the TXUMPS. Okay, and then once our reimbursement funds are received, they're going to be distributed to each center based on the submitted participation. So on average, it takes about 4 days from the day that the claim is processed for TDA, which is the Texas Department of Agriculture, for TDA to issue the payment. So it doesn't take very long. And then from the day that they issue the payment, it takes about 2 days for the deposit to actually hit into our financial department. At that point, once the deposit has been made by TDA, we go ahead and we disperse the funds within 2 days to all of the facilities' accounts for their food program. So in closing, the way the military uses or utilizes CACFP, our goal is just to provide and promote good eating habits at all levels of care in our facilities. We do this by achieving, by role modeling during our meal service. We make sure that we're meeting all CACFP meal pattern guidelines. We make sure to follow our standardized recipes to ensure that we have consistency with our cycle menus. And then we make sure that with all of this in mind, we're practicing our cost control as well.
All right, thank you, Danny. Team nutrition. So next we're just going to go through some USDA resources. I apologize if I sound like I'm moving quickly, but in the interest of time, I want to get through as many as possible. So Team Nutrition is an initiative of the United States Department of Agriculture Food and Nutrition Service to support the child nutrition programs through training and technical assistance for food service, nutrition education for children and caregivers, and school and community support for healthy eating and physical activity. Team Nutrition provides free resources and materials to schools and centers that participate in the child nutrition programs. The Food Buying Guide for Child Nutrition Programs is an essential resource with food yield information for all child nutrition programs. The Food Buying Guide assists child nutrition program operators, food manufacturers, and other stakeholders with purchasing the correct amounts of food for CNPs and determining the contribution that each food makes toward meal pattern requirements. The Food Buying Guide for Child Nutrition Programs, or FBG, has 2 new tools added earlier this year. Both features are available under the Tools Meals on the toolbar. Another very helpful resource is our Crediting Tip Sheet series. This series provides handy resources for program operators on how to credit the 5 meal components in child nutrition programs. Each tip sheet provides simple, easy to use information for a meal component. These handy resources provide the highlights of crediting for each food component with practice questions and answers included to help you become a crediting expert. There is one tip sheet for meats, meat alternates, fruits, vegetables, and fluid milk. The grains component has 3 tip sheets, crediting grains, program requirements, and identifying grain products that are whole grain rich. All of these tip sheets are available in Spanish too. Additionally, Team Nutrition has a collection of over 27 different training worksheets focused on hot topics in the CACFP meal pattern. These worksheets were developed for use by CACFP operators, state agencies, sponsoring organizations, and others who train CACFP operators on the meal pattern requirements. These training worksheets are 2 to 6 pages long, and many include interactive activities to reinforce learning and apply knowledge. These materials are available online in English and Spanish, and many are also available in print. USDA Team Nutrition developed an operator booklet titled Family Style Meal Service with Children in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This resource helps answer questions about family style meal service. Topics include preparing for family style meal service, following requirements during family style meal service, supporting children at mealtime, and gives the user the opportunity to practice their understanding. And there are more pieces to complement this booklet. In addition to the operator booklet, we also have posters, training slides, and original photos. The Feeding Infants in the Child and Adult Care Food Program Guide was released in 2019 and includes information on how to offer infant meals that are reimbursable in the CACFP. Hunger and fullness cues, handling and storing breast milk and formula, developmental readiness, and creditable foods. It is available in both English and Spanish. You will also find in the guide resources you can use to start a conversation with parents to know when to give certain foods to a baby and which foods to avoid. While a lot of the information in this guide is still accurate, we are in the process of revising it to reflect current policy. We've also included a disclaimer on our website at the URL on the slide and the QR code to flag that it is under revision, and web links are provided to access policy memos that are impacting this change. To complement the Feeding Infants Guide, Team Nutrition developed a training resource titled CACFP Trainers Tools Feeding Infants. This was released in 2020. It includes a trainer's guide, PowerPoint presentations with trainer's notes, 5 short videos, 2 to 3 minutes each, game show style digital interactives to help participants to test their knowledge within the training, and pre and post tests for each lesson. Just like the Feeding Infants Guide, this training covers topics such as an overview of the CACFP infant meal pattern, developmental readiness, hunger and fullness cues, solid foods, and much more. These materials can be used by sponsoring organizations, state agencies, and others who train CACFP operators on the infant meal pattern. Trainers can pick and choose from a variety of lessons to create trainings that best meet the needs of their CACFP operators. Similar to the Feeding Infants Guide, we are in the process of revising it to reflect current policy. We've updated the presentations with trainer notes, but are in the process of updating the trainer's guide and one of the digital interactives. These items are listed in green on the slide. While some of these resources are under revision, we have a number of additional infant nutrition resources available and updated on our website. We have training slides, on-demand trainings, training worksheets, digital interactive games, videos, breastfeeding, support materials, a website quiz, and original photos to use for your own training and promotional needs. All of these resources can be found at the URL and QR code on the screen. If you would like to learn more about team nutrition in general and the many additional resources available, please visit the Team Nutrition website, subscribe to the e-newsletter, and connect with us via email at teamnutrition@usda.gov. You can scan the GRAPES QR code for the Team Nutrition homepage and scan the Apple QR code for the website to order Team Nutrition print materials. If you'd like to learn more, we'd encourage you to visit the CACFP webpage, which includes facts, guidance, and resources. Additionally, to learn all the details of administering the CACFP, we recommend you check out our handbooks, which contain all of the program requirements for serving meals in these settings. These detailed handbooks contain everything from program background to the meal standards you should follow and how reimbursement for meals work, plus more. The web address can be found on the slide, and we will drop the link in the chat. I wanted to share a glimpse of what previously has been studied to where we are now with the research studies that are in progress. We don't have enough time to go in today to go into all of them, so please visit our website to explore these studies. As Jill mentioned earlier, one key finding from this study of nutrition and activity in childcare settings, SNACS 1, was that dietary intakes of 3 to 5-year-olds in early care settings that participated in CACFP were more nutritious on a single childcare day than a single day spent outside of care. Currently in progress is the study of nutrition and activity in childcare settings, also known as SNACS 2. And this will provide in-depth information about CACFP program operations, including nutritional quality of meals and snacks, meal costs, and characteristics of providers by program type. Data collection is complete, and a final report is expected in spring of 2025. Please keep a lookout for more exciting findings coming from pending and future studies. I want to give a very brief update on the collection of race and ethnicity data and the removal of visual observation and identification. As you may be aware, in June 2022, FNS issued a questions and answers document that provided additional guidance to state agencies and program operators on removing visual observation and identification in CACFP and SFSP. State agencies and program operators were instructed to develop alternative means to capture this data from CACFP and SFSP participants. The purpose of the requirement to collect race and ethnicity data is to determine how effectively FNS programs are reaching potential eligible persons and beneficiaries. FNS met with state agencies, advocate partners, and program operators to hear some of these challenges and best practices when collecting this data. We use this input to inform creation of our second set of questions and answers about the collection of race and ethnicity data, as well as release the document with best practices to help comply with this data collection requirement. Both of these documents were just released a few months ago in August. We hope that these new resources are helpful. And in the interest of time, I will just quickly slide to the next few slides. So here we just have information here on the child nutrition meals pattern final rule that was published recently. and then an update on all of our nutrition policy memos that were recently released. Again, all of these links and QR codes will be available to you, as well as the slides. Thank you so much. This concludes the CACFP portion of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna, for sharing all of those wonderful resources. And Danny, thank you for sharing about your experiences at Fort Bliss. All of that was really interesting and really informative. We do have several questions that have come through in the chat, and so we have some time and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. This first question, I think, is for Jill. And it is that the requirements that you shared are for what the menus have to say, but is there a check on what is actually served in the centers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the activity that we did was definitely a simplification of the meal pattern requirements to try to make it a little bit more interactive and fun. But as Krishna explained at the beginning, there are a number of organizations and agencies that are engaged in the administration of child nutrition programs. So in this case, state agencies are tasked with monitoring and making sure that program operators are following the meal pattern requirements. And so they will go on site. They are going to check for receipts. Like Danny talked about, there's a number of record keeping requirements in the CACFP. And so there are checks and balances in place to make sure that it's not just that a menu says something, but that those foods were actually served. So hopefully that is helpful in answering the question, but there is absolutely some compliance to the CACFP.
Great, thanks for confirming that. And on the same vein as the guidelines for the meal patterns, are there guidelines like specifically for calories, protein, sodium, vitamin C, etc.?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The meal pattern requirements for CACFP do not have specific nutrient requirements. Krishna mentioned the food buying guide is one of the resources for child nutrition programs, and that is the go-to resource that is going to help program operators know how different foods credit towards the meal pattern requirements. So not specific nutrient standards that people have to meet, but they do have to meet the meal pattern requirements, which, for grains is ounce equivalents. For fruits and vegetables, those are going to be in cup measurements. So that's a great question. And the food buying guide and those crediting tip sheets are going to be a great go-to resource for you to determine how foods credit. And you can also reach out to your state agency for assistance as well.
Great. And I will pull that link to the food buying guide and I'll post that in the chat here in a moment. There is another specific question about crediting meals, and it's for breakfast. When syrup is an option and there's no specific limitation on the amount of syrup, how do you determine the value of the total meal?
Right. So syrup would be considered an extra. And so it isn't something that is contributing to determine whether or not that meal meets the meal pattern requirements. So in the case of a breakfast, let's say that you have some pancakes and some strawberries and some milk. The syrup doesn't come into a factor for that under the current meal pattern requirements. We're looking to make sure that the pancakes that you're serving meet the minimum requirements for the grain ounces that are served. And so again, that syrup is going to be more of an extra item. And while it is allowable and creditable, FNS would of course encourage you to consider serving, yogurt or fruit as a topping instead of syrup. And Bethany, Krishna can take that question about outside school hours care centers and for-profit eligibility if we still have time for that.
Yeah, that would be great if she wants to circle back to that question.
Yes, so outside school hour care centers may be for-profit. There are specific for-profit requirements that they must meet. However, they are allowed to be for-profit as long as they're not operating under a sponsoring organization that is for-profit.
Great. Thanks, Krishna, for circling back to that. We have one more question, and that might be for Danny, although anyone can chime in, is how are parents informed about the design of the meal and snack programs? Like, how are they informed about how it functions and what is served and how it's served?
Okay, that's a great question. I can answer that. So, when the parents enroll into CYS, they pick whatever location they're going to want to go to. So, as soon as they have their location, when they are going to be required to attend a parent orientation at that facility. During that parent orientation, they give them a tour of the facility. They let them know where the parent board info board is. That's where we have our menus posted. That's where we have additional WIC information, building for the future information for all the parents. So we have all that information, and pretty much all the food and nutrition information is in one section of that parent board. Additionally, the parents get to go visit the classroom that their child will be in, and they get to meet the care providers there. And then the care providers at that point just explain to them how the day goes when we have breakfast, when we have lunch, the meals, if the child has allergies, how they're going to handle allergies, how they're going to identify their child's allergies and substitutions that are needed for that child. So that initial orientation to that facility actually covers everything that they need to know for CACFP and for anything additional just pertaining to their child's stay at that center.
Great. Thanks, Danny, for answering that question. And Jill and Krishna, thank all of you for the great presentation today and the way that you engaged the audience. This was really informative, and I really enjoyed learning more about the CACFP program. And thanks to our audience for being so interactive in the chat today. We appreciate you being here. OneOp would like to invite you to our next webinar on February 26th, titled The Role of the Charitable Food System in Food and Nutrition Security. This will be presented by Dr. Caitlin Caspi from the University of Connecticut Rudd Center for Food Policy and Health. The link at the bottom of this slide will take you to register for that webinar, and we will also post that in the chat. For today's session, 1.5 continuing education credits are available from the Commission on Dietetic Registration, the American Association for Family and Consumer Sciences, and the National Commission for Health Education Credentialing. Certificates of attendance are also available. A link to the webinar evaluation and to receive your continuing education certificate is being placed in the chat now. And you may also visit the webinar event page to obtain your certificate. On the event page, you will find the purple evaluation link. So click on that purple link there. And after completing the evaluation, you will be directed to select the appropriate CE opportunity, complete a post test, and then fill in your name and email. Your certificate will be emailed to you. Note that some email addresses will direct the certificate to the spam folder, so please check there if you don't receive your certificate. But if you have any questions, please contact us at the email listed on the slide, ce@oneop.org. A recording of today's webinar will be archived within 48 hours to our YouTube channel, which you can access via the event page. And be sure to visit us at our website, oneop.org, to explore upcoming events, articles, resources, and more. And you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We will stick around for a few more minutes for those who might need to grab any links or information from the chat. Thank you all again for being here today, and we hope to see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.